Most of what you believe about money is a lie. Not because anyone intentionally deceived you, but because you inherited beliefs from a culture that's designed to keep you spending, borrowing, and working until you're too old to enjoy the freedom you've been chasing your whole life. And then there's Japan, a country with a completely different relationship with money, where millionaires drive 20-year-old cars, where families save 40% of their income without feeling deprived, where people retire with more security on modest salaries than Americans retire with on six-figure incomes, where the cultural beliefs about money are so different from Western beliefs that when you hear them, they sound insane. But here's the thing. These insane beliefs work. They create actual financial security. They build lasting wealth. They generate peace instead of anxiety. And once you understand them, once you really let them sink in, you can never see money the same way again. These aren't tips or tricks. These are fundamental truths about money that Japanese culture figured out generations ago and Western culture is still missing. Let's discover together 10 facts about how Japanese people think about money that will permanently change how you see every dollar that passes through your life. Western money culture is built on a few core lies. More is always better. You deserve to reward yourself. Debt is a tool. Your worth is tied to your net worth. Retirement is something you do when you're too old to work. Wealth should be displayed. And if you're not constantly optimizing, you're failing. Japanese money culture rejects every single one of those beliefs. And in doing so, it creates completely different outcomes. Let me show you exactly what I mean. Fact 1. In Japan, displaying wealth is considered shameful, not admirable. In America, if you become wealthy, you're expected to show it. Drive a luxury car, live in an impressive house, wear designer clothes, take expensive vacations, and post about them. The wealth isn't real unless other people can see it. Status comes from visible consumption. In Japan, the opposite is true. If you're wealthy and you display it ostentatiously, you're not admired, you're pitied. People see you as insecure, as someone who needs external validation, as someone who doesn't understand what money is actually for. Japanese millionaires often drive cars that are 15 or 20 years old, not because they can't afford new ones, because a car is transportation. Once it's paid off and reliable, replacing it is wasteful. They live in modest homes in normal neighborhoods, not because they can't afford bigger, because space you don't need is burden, not luxury. This creates a completely different psychological relationship with wealth. When wealth doesn't need to be displayed, you're free to accumulate it quietly. You're not spending money to prove anything to anyone. You're keeping money because it serves you privately, not publicly. Think about your own relationship with visible wealth. How much of your spending is driven by what other people will think? How much is about proving you're doing well? And what would change if you simply stopped caring about the display? This fact alone changes everything. Because once you realize that wealth doesn't need to be visible to be real, you stop spending money on symbols and start keeping money for security. And security beats symbols every single time. Fact 2. The average Japanese household saves over 20% of their income, and they don't consider it a sacrifice. In America, saving 15% of your income is considered aggressive. Most people save less than 5%, and when they do save more, they feel like they're sacrificing. They're giving up things they want. They're being responsible instead of living. In Japan, saving 20 to 30% is normal, not extreme. Normal, and they don't experience it as deprivation because their entire lifestyle is designed to cost less than they earn. The gap between income and expenses isn't something they create through willpower. It's something they designed into their life structure. Here's how they do it. They don't start with income and spend until they run out. They start with enough. They calculate what they actually need to live well. Then they structure their life to cost that amount. Everything above that is automatically savings. They never see it as available spending money. This is the opposite of the American approach. Americans spend first and save whatever's left, which is usually nothing. Japanese save first and spend what's left, which is always something. The savings rate isn't the result of superhuman discipline. It's the result of defining enough and living below it intentionally. And once enough is defined, saving doesn't feel like sacrifice. It feels like success. Think about your own savings rate. Is it high because you're disciplined, or is it low because you never defined enough? And what would happen if you designed your life to cost less than your income, instead of trying to willpower your way into saving? Fact 3. Japanese people often wait years before making major purchases, and the waiting is part of the value. Americans are obsessed with instant gratification. See something, want it, buy it, preferably the same day. If you can't afford it, finance it. The idea of waiting years for something you want sounds absurd. You might be dead by then. Life is short. Buy it now. Japanese consumers regularly wait years for major purchases. They decide they want something. They research it thoroughly. They save specifically for it. They wait until they can pay cash. And they don't experience the waiting as torture. They experience it as part of the purchase. Because here's what they understand. Anticipation is part of value. When you wait for something, when you save for it deliberately, when you finally buy it with cash you set aside specifically for this purpose, the purchase means more. You appreciate it more, you use it more, you take care of it more. Contrast this with buying on impulse with credit. You get the thing immediately, you feel good for an hour, then the thing joins the pile of other things you bought impulsively, and you're paying for it for months or years while barely using it. Japanese consumers would rather wait 2 years and buy with cash than buy today with credit. Not because they're patient by nature, because they value the purchase differently when it's earned through waiting. Think about your last major purchase. Did you wait and save for it, or did you buy it immediately with credit? And how much do you value that purchase now? This fact changes how you see every purchase. When waiting becomes part of the value instead of an obstacle to overcome, you buy less but appreciate more, and you end up wealthier and happier. Fact 4. In Japan, parents teach children about money by giving them real responsibility with real consequences. American parents often shield children from money stress. They handle all finances privately. Kids get allowances with no connection to effort or choice. They learn about money theoretically in school. They hit adulthood with almost no practical experience managing real money with real consequences. Japanese parents do the opposite. They give children responsibility early. A child might be given the weekly grocery budget and told to plan and shop for the family. They have to make real choices. Buy the expensive brand and run out of money, or buy generic and have money left over. Real money, real consequences. Teenagers are often given monthly budgets that include their clothing, entertainment, and discretionary spending. They manage it themselves. If they blow it all in the first week, they live with nothing for the rest of the month. Parents don't rescue them. The lesson is more valuable than the comfort. This creates adults who understand money viscerally, who've made mistakes with small amounts and learned from them, who don't hit 25 and destroy their finances with their first credit card because they have a decade of real experience making financial decisions. Think about your own financial education. Did you learn by doing or by being lectured at? And do you wish you'd had more real responsibility earlier? This fact changes how you teach money to the next generation. Experience beats theory. Real responsibility beats theoretical lessons. And children who manage money early become adults who manage it well. Fact 5. Japanese retirees often have higher net worth than their American counterparts, despite earning significantly less during their careers. This fact breaks most Americans' brains. How can someone who earned less their entire career retire wealthier? It violates the fundamental belief that wealth comes from high income. But it's true. The average Japanese retiree has higher net worth relative to their lifetime earnings than the average American retiree. Not because they earned more, because they kept more. Here's the math. An American earns $80,000 per year for 40 years. That's $3.2 million in lifetime earnings. They spend $75,000 per year on lifestyle. They save $5,000 per year. After 40 years of compound growth, they retire with maybe $800,000. A Japanese worker earns $60,000 per year for 40 years. That's $2.4 million in lifetime earnings. They spend $40,000 per year on lifestyle. They save $20,000 per year. After 40 years of compound growth, they retire with over $1.5 million. Lower income, higher wealth. Because the gap matters more than the amount. Because keeping 40% creates more wealth than earning more and keeping 7%. Think about your own earnings versus your savings. Are you focused on earning more or keeping more? And which one actually builds wealth? This fact changes everything about career decisions. Chasing higher income only helps if you keep the increase. Otherwise, you're just upgrading your lifestyle on the same treadmill. Fact 6. Japanese culture sees debt as a form of failure, not a financial tool. Americans are taught that debt is a tool. Good debt versus bad debt. Leverage. Using other people's money to build wealth faster. Debt is normal, expected, even celebrated when it's for the right things. Japanese culture sees debt differently. All debt is bad. Some might be necessary temporarily, like a modest mortgage, but it's still bad. It's something to eliminate as quickly as possible. It's not a tool, it's a weight, a burden, a form of bondage to future earnings. This creates completely different behavior. Americans comfortably carry car loans, student loans, credit card balances, personal loans. They see monthly payments as normal. Japanese consumers avoid debt almost entirely. They save and buy with cash. They pay off mortgages aggressively. They consider being debt-free a basic life milestone. The psychological difference is massive. Americans feel stressed but normalize it. They're always making payments, always owing someone, always working to pay for the past. Japanese consumers who are debt-free feel light, free. Their entire income is theirs to allocate. Nothing is spoken for by past decisions. Think about your own debt. Do you see it as a tool or as bondage? And how would your life feel different if you owed nothing to anyone? This fact changes your entire debt strategy. If debt is bondage, not a tool, you attack it aggressively instead of managing it comfortably, and you avoid it entirely whenever possible. But if those 6 facts shifted your perspective, the next 4 are even more radical. Fact 7. Japanese families often live multi-generationally, not for cultural reasons, but for financial efficiency. Americans see multi-generational living as failure. If you're living with your parents after college, you're struggling. If your parents move in with you, it's because they have to. Independence is success. Multi-generational living is failure. Japanese families often live multi-generationally by choice, not because they can't afford separate homes, because it's financially efficient and creates better outcomes for everyone. Grandparents help with childcare, parents provide financial support, everyone shares housing costs. The family unit is economically stronger as a collective than as separated individuals all paying separate rent and utilities. This isn't about tradition, it's about math. 3 separate households means 3 rents, 3 sets of utilities, 3 full kitchens, 3 sets of furniture. 1 household means 1 of everything. The savings are enormous. Americans sacrifice hundreds of thousands of dollars over a lifetime to maintain separate households for the appearance of independence. Japanese families keep that money and build generational wealth instead. Think about your own living situation. How much do you spend annually on housing? And what would change if you didn't have to carry that entire burden alone? This fact changes how you see housing and family structure. Independence is expensive, interdependence is efficient, and efficiency builds wealth that independence consumes. Fact 8. The Japanese concept of lifetime employment isn't about loyalty, it's about financial planning certainty. Americans change jobs every 3 to 5 years chasing raises. Job hopping is how you increase income. Loyalty to one employer is naive. You should always be looking for the next opportunity. Japan's traditional lifetime employment system wasn't primarily about loyalty. It was about creating income certainty that enabled aggressive, long-term financial planning. When you know your income is stable for 40 years, you can plan precisely. You can commit to mortgages knowing you'll pay them off. You can save aggressively, knowing the income won't disappear. American job hopping creates income volatility. You might make more over time, but you're never certain. You can't plan as precisely. You can't commit as confidently. And the psychological stress of income uncertainty affects every financial decision. This doesn't mean you shouldn't change jobs, but it reveals something important. Income certainty is worth something, and sometimes taking less money at a more stable company is better for long-term financial planning than chasing higher numbers at volatile companies. Think about your own career trajectory. Have you optimized for maximum income or for income stability? And which one actually serves your financial goals better? This fact changes how you evaluate job offers. Stability has value that salary numbers don't capture, and sometimes the lower offer is actually better for your financial future. Fact 9. Japanese people calculate purchases in hours worked, not dollars spent. Americans see a price tag and think about whether they can afford it. $400. Can I afford $400? If yes, buy. If no, maybe use credit. Japanese consumers often calculate purchases differently. They convert price to hours worked. If you earn $20 per hour after taxes, a $400 purchase costs 20 hours of your life. Would you work 20 hours for this thing if someone offered you that direct trade? This reframe changes everything. Suddenly, you're not spending dollars, you're spending pieces of your life. And life is the only currency that actually matters. That expensive dinner, 3 hours of your life. That new phone when your current one works fine, 40 hours of your life. That car upgrade you don't need, 2,000 hours of your life. When you frame it this way, a lot of purchases stop making sense. Think about your recent purchases in terms of hours worked. Would you have made the same choices if you were explicitly trading hours of your life instead of swiping a card? This fact changes every single purchase decision. Money is abstract, time is visceral, and when you see spending as spending time, you spend far less. Fact 10. Japanese culture believes financial peace is the goal, not financial success. This is the fact that ties everything together. Americans chase financial success, higher net worth, bigger portfolio, better returns, more wealth. The goal is always more. Success is measured by amount. Japanese culture chases financial peace, enough saved, no debt, stable income, low stress, security. The goal isn't maximum wealth, it's maximum peace. And peace comes from having enough and knowing it, not from having more and wanting more. This creates completely different retirement outcomes. American retirees with $2 million feel anxious because they're comparing themselves to people with $5 million. Japanese retirees with $800,000 feel peaceful because they know it's enough for their simple lifestyle. Same concept applies during working years. Americans earning 6 figures feel stressed because they're spending it all and then some. Japanese workers earning $60,000 feel peaceful because they're saving 30% and living well on the rest. Peace beats success, because success without peace is just expensive anxiety. And peace without massive success is actual wealth. Think about your own financial goal. Are you chasing success or peace? and which one would actually make your life better. This fact changes your entire financial philosophy. If peace is the goal, you stop chasing more and start defining enough. And enough is achievable right now, while more is always out of reach. These 10 facts aren't just interesting cultural differences. They're fundamental truths about money that Western culture has wrong and Japanese culture has right. Display is not wealth. Saving is not sacrifice. Waiting adds value. Experience teaches better than theory. Keeping beats earning. Debt is bondage. Efficiency beats independence. Stability has value. Time is the real currency. Peace is the real goal. Once you understand these facts, once you really internalize them, you can't see money the same way. You can't walk past a car dealership and see status symbols. You see depreciating assets financed with future time. You can't see a luxury purchase the same way. You see hours of your life converted to a thing you'll forget about in 6 months. You stop measuring success by how much you earn and start measuring it by how much you keep. You stop chasing more and start protecting enough. You stop comparing yourself to people with more and start comparing yourself to your own definition of peace. And gradually, over months and years, your entire financial life transforms. Not because you're following a budget or using an app or trying harder, because you see money differently. And when you see it differently, you use it differently. And when you use it differently, you get different results. The Japanese prove this works, not in theory, in actual households with actual peace, in retirees with actual security, in families that built wealth on modest incomes because they kept more than they spent and valued peace more than status. You can adopt these beliefs. You don't need to be Japanese. You don't need to live in Japan. You just need to question the beliefs you inherited from a culture that wants you to spend, borrow, and work until you die, and replace them with beliefs that actually create financial peace. If this changed how you see money and you want to explore more Japanese financial wisdom that actually works in real life, subscribe to this channel. We break down the facts that Western culture gets wrong and Japanese culture gets right. Not cultural tourism, not exotic tips, just fundamental truths about money that create peace instead of anxiety. You'll find more perspective-shifting content like this waiting for you.